Good morning, everybody. My name is Dr. Dick Walker. Most of you are familiar with who I am. I'm a retired physician, internist, emergency physician, also have a background in preventive medicine, environmental health, nutrition, a bunch of different aspects of health and wellness. It is June the 5th. Welcome to my monthly discussion of the science of all things ASEA. This morning, we're going to be talking specifically about the cell performance products, not redox signaling products, but the two are in one way or another related. And I've invited Lee Ostler on this morning. He's a friend of mine. He's a professional dentist. He's also a author, as you may know, of 2 books on redox signaling, and all things related. The last chapter of his second book, Redox Healthy Matters, actually has a discussion of a number of the ingredients that we'll be talking about today. So if you want more information, that's a great source for you, as is the internet for sure. So if you want a recording of this, it will be posted within 24 hours or so on redoxmatters.com. That's Dr. Ostler's website, and all my other recordings are there as well. So if you want to send this to somebody, that's going to be the best place to find it. So let's get started, I think, Lee, with I think some people are confused about the relationship between the cell performance products and our foundation product, the redox signaling molecules, ASEA Redox. So maybe we can just kind of talk a little bit about that and get your input there, because I guess it is a little bit confusing, because for 12 years, we've only had one product line. We've had the redox signaling molecules, and now we have other healthy products that interact with the Redox Ohm or with redox per se. And so how do you describe this to people who, your people in your organization who are wondering, where does this fit in? How do I look at these products in general?
Well, thank you, Dick, for having me with you. And it is a pleasure to be, a part of this. I realize we've got a lot of health professionals probably tuning in with us today. And so we're going to be speaking maybe at 2 levels of this. So one is kind of how you simply explain it, and maybe once in a while we'll dip into some more nerdy, geek out kind of stuff where we're talking a little bit of chemistry, because there's some real foundations of this. And in answer to your question, this is about what we call the redox landscape. And literally there's thousands, if not tens of thousands, of redox molecules that are in biology. Really across all species, plants, botany, humans, mammals, yeast. There's this whole concept of redox is a grounding and foundational idea. And basically, just to set the stage, it's just how electrons move. When we talk about cell communication, we're just really talking about the transduction or the movement of an electron from one molecule to the next. And in that sense, it's kind of a binary world. It's a polar world. You either have a positive or a negative charge on a molecule. And I guess there's a balance. We call that homeostasis. But the movement of an electron depends on a gradient and, things being satisfied to try and keep things in balance. And so there's a lot of molecules that we think of as redox molecules, meaning they play in the sandbox of the redox landscape. That you use the word redox ohm, that's a science term. It's like there's a genome and a proteome, but the epigenome or the redox ohm is this sandbox that we play in, where there's redox molecules passing electrons back and forth. And to the heart of that matter, the question becomes, what's the difference between a signaling molecule or a signaling action and a simple redox-active molecule? That's really the essence of this, and that's going to be an important concept in the future. There's literally, dozens and dozens of people, scientists, companies, products out there that are beginning to get into this space and start to make their own claims that they are redox molecules. Well, actually, that is true. Some of them will slip and say they're a redox signaling molecule, which technically might be possible as a secondary or tertiary level, but there's really only one set of, we'll call them primary redox signaling molecules, and that's those that are created in the mitochondria as a consequence of energy metabolism. And now we've been able to replicate that in a laboratory, which is the real reason why we're even talking in the first place, because this was a breakthrough that stabilized those reactive oxygen species molecules that we're making all the time in our mitochondria, and now we can use them as a replenishing supplement. Nature kind of has this thing where when I burn fuel, when I eat food and convert it into glucose or fatty acids or amino acids, those are the only three fuel substrates that the mitochondria can use to burn or metabolize or break down to extract energy from. This is about how do I get energy from the sun, through a fuel source and into my body. And so we do that by this energy metabolism process that harvests or banks this energy through the process of metabolism. And in the process, we're creating this smoke, if you will, this byproduct from that reaction. And nature has found a way to use that to help balance what we call the free radicals or the damage that can occur from that process. And it is those signaling molecules that activate pathway genes that provide the cellular defense. So with that as a starting point, then we kind of expand and say, well, then what's the difference between those signaling molecules, which consist of superoxide and hydrogen peroxide and hypochlorous and ozone, and there's a list of about 20 plus or minus. What's the difference between those and redox molecules that we call Redox-Active? They come in and they have at least a secondary or tertiary effect within that redox landscape to support the process of cellular homeostasis or balance or cell preservation, cell functions, cell renewal, all these synonymous words that just mean I'm surviving. I'm not taken down by the free radicals. I'm going to activate a survival circuit or a redox regulatory circuit within my cells that helps sustain and support life. And so that kind of forms this differentiation between what's a redox signaling molecule and what is a molecule that's just participating in the redox landscape or the redox equations, the reactions that are going on. And that's really where cell performance now in this company that has produced these supportive redox-active molecules that are, we call it powered by redox, that's become a trademarked expression, but it defines the fact that they are participants in the redox reactions that promote cellular survival.
Okay, great. I think that's a great way to explain it. So they're really supportive of, synergistic with, complementary to the improving the health or functionality of this huge concept of redox health and redox homeostasis. So I know that when ASEA was putting these together, they were looking at 4 different criteria to decide what ingredients to put in these 3 products. The 3 products are Redox Mind, Redox Mood, and Redox Energy. And we're going to be talking today primarily about mind and mood. If we have a chance, we'll dip into the energy conversation as well, but we may want to save that for a separate thing because there's a lot of stuff to talk about there. But the 4 different criteria were gene regulation. So they wanted to have ingredients that would positively affect gene regulation, cell protection, and certainly our redox signaling molecules are involved there as well, cell recovery and adaptive response. In other words, helping our cells and the whole organism to adapt to changes. And so I also want to say that each of these three products have been consumer tested, 3-week trials, and we'll give the results of those testing. And for those of you who want a review of some of the stuff we're talking about today, in your back office and your VO, if you're an ASEA associate, there's a flyer, so to speak, an information sheet on each one of these, which has a lot of the information in outline form that we'll talk about today. But those were the 4 aspects of cellular health that the company was focusing on. And if an ingredient didn't satisfy at least 3 of those, then that ingredient did not get included in these products. And so just to give you an overview of how to think of this, and I do want to say that you don't need to know all the information that we're going to be talking about today. Like Alan Noble says, all you need to know is, there's 5 terms: fatigue, brain fog, overwhelm, anxiety, and stress. Those are the things that these products help address. But each of the products has a proprietary redox blend, and these are the main focus, the main ingredients that are focused on affecting the Redox Ohm, the redox environment. And then there are other supporting ingredients. There's so many of these ingredients. We're going to mostly focus on talking about the proprietary redox blend ingredients, and those are trademarked. There's that pentagram that says "powered by Redox." And then each of these products also has a branded ingredient. And the significance of that is that these branded ingredients, and we'll discuss each one of those as we go through the different products, has been clinically tested, has clinical trials out there that have determined what the benefits are, what the effects are of using that branded ingredient. So we're free to make claims about those because they're already out there in the public space. There's already studies and already confirmation of what the benefits are of these branded ingredients. And so the best way to get more information about that is to just Google those branded ingredients, and all of those trials and all of the proven benefits of each of those will come up. There are other benefits from these products, but those are benefits that have been proven scientifically in clinical trials, and those claims are validated. So we are free to use those because each of those branded ingredients are actually included as one of the ingredients in these products. And so you don't have to worry about, are you making a claim that isn't backed up by science, because they are, and those are published and out there in the public environment, in the space that people can go take a look at. So let's, we all probably have our favorite one. My favorite one, I think, but I like all of them, is the Redox Mind. And I know Lee is pretty impressed with this one as well, because we've had some conversations about it. But so let's start off with the branded ingredient in Redox Mind is called Cognivia. And you can Google that and you can see there were 8 clinical studies that have been published, peer-reviewed clinical trials, studies, et cetera, that have been published. So you're free to make reference to those. We're not going to talk about each of those today. You can find that by just Googling Cognivia. But what some of those claims that have been proven are improving attention span, and improving what we call the executive functions of the brain, which are reasoning, problem solving, etc. Not just memory, not just but really the higher functions of the brain have been found to benefit from this ingredient called Cognivia. And for all of you out there who are looking for maybe a reason to talk to people about this product, there's actually scientific evidence that it helped video gamers to perform better in their gaming. And I think there are a lot of video gamers that are looking for a little bit of an edge in their performance. But it improves, and in the clinical trial that was done on Redox Mind, improvements in mental clarity, 80% of people noticed that. 86% noticed that it improved their focus. And I think those are two reasons why it may be helping video gamers. And then 84% felt that it improved their memory. So, we've got a single ingredient that has been proven to do all of these things. And then we've got some other great ingredients that we're going to talk about. So let's focus in on the proprietary blend for Redox Mind. And I'm going to kind of turn it over to you, Lee, to talk a bit about one of those, which is the two are nicotinamide adenylenucleotide, which is easier to say NMN because that's a big word that's easy to stumble over. And the other one is red orange complex, or ROC. So let's start with nicotinamide mononucleotide and talk about how it protects the brain. And, you've got a great section in your book and you've got a great handle on how this works. So I'm just going to turn it over to you, Lee, and you can talk about NMN and why it's in the mind cell performance and what it does for our body, for our mind.
Yeah, NMN or nicotinamide mononucleotide is a very interesting precursor in a long chain of reactions that sets the stage for cellular renewal and cellular protection. If we reverse engineer this, we get down to the end and say, well, what's the purpose of NMN, and where does it go for us? And the answer to that largely is related to the protection of the DNA. One of the most dominant concerns with regards to aging is the status of the DNA strands and whether or not there's gene mutations and how well they repair themselves and how well they protect the telomere ends, on the ends of the package, the chromosomes, and keep them protected. The concept with this is that for a gene to express, for a gene to work, to produce a protein of any kind, it has to be made available to what we call the transcription process, whereby proteins are made, where the mRNA comes in and translates the code to produce a protein. Well, if there's damage done to that DNA strand, and those can be, double-stranded as in DNA or single-stranded as in RNA, then sometimes that genetic code can be misread, or it can be added to or taken away from or recombined with or whatever. And so nature has developed a method to protect that DNA strand. And it's by using what's called histones. And a histone is a protein that is the core of this chromatin DNA structure. And the chromatin the DNA winds itself tightly around these histone proteins and packages it or condenses it so that it's not made available to this transcription translation process. That keeps the gene silent. That keeps it so that it is not functional when it's not supposed to be functional. When there's damage done to the DNA through radiation or toxicity or whatever, it opens up that DNA strand and makes it susceptible to having these misreads or these mutations occur, where there's now proteins being made or proteins being damaged and so forth. And so the point of all this is that nature had to devise a way to protect the DNA. Otherwise, we age quicker. And so this ties into this anti-aging and cellular protection concept. Well, the way it does that is by activating a molecule called a sirtuin, S-I-R-T-U-I-N. And it's a family of enzymes that condition the histone core protein around which the DNA is wrapped in such a way that it protects it and keeps it there and helps to repair the DNA. And sirtuins are the main vehicle that the cell uses to accomplish this DNA repair and to keep our and to protect the nuclear, integrity or homeostasis inside the cell. So if we continue to reverse engineer that and say, well, then what is it that makes sirtuins work that would then protect my DNA? And the answer is NAD. That's nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. So we just call it NAD. And that's an essential redox molecule because it lives in the mitochondria. It's throughout every cell of the body, but it lives as a pair. It's an oxidized form of NADH, which has the hydrogen or electron to it. And so NAD and NADH kind of cycle as a redox couple, passing this electron, around and around and around, and it participates in energy production as well as a myriad of biochemical reactions within the cell. So therefore, it itself is associated with energy and cellular homeostasis. But NAD is what activates sirtuins, which is what causes DNA to stay protected and tightly wound and to express only when it's supposed to be expressed. Well, then we back one more step up and say, well, then how do I get NAD in the body? And the answer is NMN, nicotinamide monodinucleotide. And NMN is, you put two of those together, and now you have, that's a mononucleotide, but when I put two of the mononucleotides together, I get a dinucleotide, which is NAD. NAD is such a large molecule, it can't get into the cell. And so NMN becomes the precursor that everybody in the nutritional and anti-aging space focus on because it uses a transporter to get it into the cell. This is why you don't see NAD as a supplement. You will see NAD boosters or precursors in the supplement space, and you can buy those, readily anywhere online or anywhere else. But it's not NAD, it's an NAD booster. And basically they are a precursor to NAD, which is basically two NMN molecules that get into the cell and then become the dinucleotide, which then affects the sirtuin. Backing up one more step in front of that in this precursor chain, ahead of NMN is what's called NR, and that is nicotinamide riboside, which is basically a vitamin B3 niacin. Those chemists in the room, that's an amine or an amide. That's what vitamin D3 is. I'm sorry, not D3, B3, B as in boy, I misspoke. So vitamin B3, niacin, nicotinamide, niacin, nicotinic acid, all of those are synonymous. That's the amine or the amide that then accepts a sugar molecule to become NR, or this nicotinamide riboside. So you have B3 becoming NR, and NR then accepts a phosphate group to become NMN. And that process is expensive. And that's why when you find NMN in the marketplace as a supplement, it's much more expensive than is NR. But NR, while it's been effective, isn't as good as NMN as a supplement to produce more NAD. So that whole line, in summary, starts with vitamin B3, which is converted to NR, nicotinamide riboside, which is converted to NMN, nicotinamide mononucleotide, which is then converted to NAD, which is then activating sirtuins, which then gives me the DNA repair protection process that fights aging. So that's kind of a deep movement through the weeds of this whole pathway, but that's what makes NMN such an important an essential ingredient, is because that is the precursor. That's the precursor to make more NAD, and across the board, NAD has universally been affiliated with both energy creation, but also this antioxidant cellular protection, because that's what protects, that's what creates sirtuin activation that then creates the nuclear homeostasis, or keeps my DNA under repair and keeps me from aging. So again, I apologize if I lost anybody, who isn't familiar with all those terms, but that's why this is such an important ingredient in this product, this mind product, is NMN is pretty expensive. If you go out and buy it, and I've done that, you can go buy the supplement itself, and to get tiny amounts of grams, I mean, it's inordinately expensive. So to see it in a product like this, blended with other supportive products that are part of the cellular renewal, cellular protection package, and to have that complement what we talked about earlier, the redox signaling side of it, I now have the full complement of activity in the redox landscape that promotes the signaling, gives my mitochondrial health what it needs, and promotes this DNA repair, which is so critical if I want to not age faster, if I want to prevent mutations. Think about some diseases that you know of that we generally call rogue, rogue cells gone rogue, right? What is it that causes that? Well, the nuclear information starts to unwind, and it starts to replicate when it shouldn't be expressing itself. I get untoward, gene duplication happening, and things go south on me. Well, that's why this is so important. If there's anything, we've kind of talked before, we talked about, do I take these when I need it? Do I take these just episodically? Like when I think I need my mind sharper for a chemistry test, or I'm gonna speak somewhere in front of public, and I want my mind to be sharp. And it's like, I can make some real good arguments that at least this one, with the NMN and the red orange complex in it, powered by Redox, this ought to be a daily supplement, because where else are you going to get your NMN from? And of course, we should be eating. There's obviously sources of vitamin B3 and NMN and so forth in nature, because it exists there. We're not doing that so well. So we could make a good argument. This ought to be a daily, ritual for us, because I want to keep my DNA healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say of all of these three products, I think the strongest argument for daily use as a wellness preventive thing can certainly be made for mind, and NMN is a really strong argument for that. And it certainly is anti-aging in that regard. We've got evidence that it maintains telomere length, and we know that that's important for longevity. And certainly, you've made a strong case for protecting the integrity of our DNA, because when that gets contaminated, and you combine that with bad signaling, you're just asking for big problems. But let's switch maybe to red orange complex, ROC. The ROC comes from a couple of different varieties of oranges that come from, they're raised on volcanic soils around Mount Etna in Italy. And they've got some interesting plant chemicals or in them, anthocyanins, hydroxycinnamic acid, and flavones, and some of the properties of these plant phenols, these compounds that are created in the red orange complex are pretty interesting. I'll just sort of list a few things that I found in my searching. And, one of the things is that they enhance antioxidant activity in the mitochondria. And we know that the signaling molecules are definitely involved there. And now we have another product that can help to enhance antioxidant activity in the mitochondria, where it's really important. Your mitochondria are the center of a lot of the oxidative stress that occurs in our cells, and they're involved in the electron transport chain. They make it, I think, more efficient. They make it function, more with more integrity than it would otherwise. The hydroxycinnamic acid is a very potent antioxidant in and of itself, and has anti-inflammatory and neuroprotective factors that are documented and very significant. And the list of benefits from the flavone is anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, lipid lowering, improves endothelial function, activates the NRF2 complex, which produces, which convinces the cells, biohacks the cells in essence to produce more glutathione and superoxide dismutase, neuroprotective, cognitive improvement, beneficial effects on the blood-brain barrier. I mean, the benefits of this red-orange complex are extensive. What do you know about the red-orange complex, and what's your take on the ROC?
Well, you've enumerated, the core essence of ROC, the red-orange complex. It's a powerful antioxidant. And interestingly, as you were speaking there about the NRF2, we know that it upregulates the cell antioxidant, the endogenous antioxidants, the glutathiones, the superoxide dismutase class of antioxidants. And so, some could say, well, if it is an NRF2 activator like that, then why do I need redox signaling molecules? Well, this is a great example of what we were talking about before, is that the distinction is that nutrition, which is what really we're talking about here, this comes from nutrition, is not responsive. We're basically just top-loading nutrition into our body. We just consume it. And there's nothing about it that is responsive. So any effect that it has in this redox landscape is secondary. And that's an important distinction. It goes back to highlight the difference between a redox signaling molecule and a redox-active molecule. We are activating some NRF2 transcription factors that produce the glutathione, make it more efficient and efficacy and so forth. But it's kind of a secondary messenger that we're top-loading into the body. But having said that, these still have, essential roles, central roles to play in. For example, a red-orange complex has been shown to, it has the anthocyanins in it, and that's a part of helping to carry electrons, inside the mitochondria. Well, therefore, a anthocyanin and a proanthocyanin, that's a redox molecule, because they're affecting the energy, substrates within and the reactions within the cell. That then is producing all of these downstream effects that we see from Krebs and the production of energy and the creation of reactive oxygen species that then become, redox signaling molecules. And so they just all work together really well. But they're also very neuroprotective. And so from a mind perspective, if we're saying, why would they put that inside the redox mind? It's because they're powerfully protective of neurons and brain cells in the myelin sheath, and keeping neurotransmission functioning, the way it's supposed to be. All of these flavonoids and these polyphenols, that come there have those significant advantages, because they help reduce toxicity within the neurons of the brain and keep them sharp. So if I'm wanting to think, if I don't want to be dull, if I want to be cognitively alert and aware, my brain cells need to be functioning right. And so these are all very supportive in that redox landscape towards that measure.
Yeah, I found that I really, until ASEA came out with this, I really wasn't aware of the benefits of red-orange complex. And what if you could name the main organ that you want to protect and maintain as you get older? Certainly the central nervous system, the brain, is, to my way of thinking, at the top of the list. And this also benefits cardiovascular health in a number of different ways. So, I just can't say enough about mind, redox mind. And again, I think the really important distinction is that there's a strong argument to be made that this is not just a as needed product. This isn't something that you just take when you've got brain fog, when you want a little bit of a increase in your ability to remember and to think and to cogitate and work out problems. This is something, and it certainly will do that, but it also is something that I think has long-term beneficial effects on maintaining all of those functions of the brain, which is if the rest of your body is healthy and your brain isn't working, then that's a real problem. And we're starting to hear experiences that certainly support what we're talking about here. So let's switch gears a little bit here, if you don't mind, and talk a little bit about redox mood, because I think there's kind of a misconception about mood. I hear people, thinking that this is like a sleeping medication, that this is something you take at night so that you sleep better. And that I think is certainly true, but there's way more here to dissect and to talk about. So let's just talk a little bit. Let's start by talking about the branded ingredient, which is Affron, Affron, and you can Google that, and you can see what there's I think 8 clinical trials that have been published on Affron, and Affron is actually a mixture of saffron, which is a flavoring, a flavor enhancer that people put in food, and crucin, which is another natural product that comes from crocus, apparently. And one of the things that the crucin does is to increase glutathione production. So as we learn more and more about these, I think one of the impressive things to me, Lee, is that these things all sort of stack on each other. It's just another way to improve some crucial antioxidant productions. And so I can go through some of the other stated benefits of Affron, but people can Google that and get that on their own. But one of the most important things I think that Affron complex does is to help maintain healthy redox status. And so now we've got our redox signaling molecules, which are absolutely essential in that. And now we have a supplement that helps them to even work better, like you say, by focusing sort of a laser focus on that. But, the studies showed that people who took this supplement, 81% of them felt that it improved their ability to relax. So it helps relaxation. About 80% said it improved their mood. And about 77% said that it enabled them to stay cool, calm, and collected. So it's not just a sleeping aid. It's not something that you just take at night so that you can sleep. There is some evidence that it improves the quality of sleep, but that's not probably certainly not the only reason, and maybe not the best reason to take it. So what's your take on that so far in terms of the mood? I know it's a product that you also feel that people sort of misunderstand a little bit. And let's talk about that a little bit, and then we'll get into the proprietary redox blend that's in mood.
Well, I think you're right. We have this cultural idea that if something like mood is going to come along, there's some sedative or there's some it's a sleeping medicine or something like that, And I think a better way of looking at it is it's a calming, overall, and that's an effect from the blend of that from saffron. It has carotenoids and flavonoids and phenolic acids. Therefore, it has high ability to cross the blood-brain barrier. And so, its effect directly upon neurons, neural tissues, brain cells, and so forth is valuable. It's a strong antioxidant in that regard. And it helps to prevent the oxidative damage, which, again, if you're wanting to stay sharp and have brain function, work well, then that's important. This might sound a little contradictory because we were just talking about something that would make my mind sharp, and now we're talking about something that might make my mind dull. It's like, so that's not the right verbiage. This isn't about dulling you down or sedating you. It's about calming you, and it goes back to the synergism between these supportive ingredients and these main ingredients that is critical there.
Yeah, I agree. And the way I think of the mood is it's a great product. And the way I use it is if I'm at least on a as needed basis, if I'm stuck in one of those situations where I've got all these things to do and I'm having a hard time prioritizing, and and I just can't kind of concentrate and get things squared away, then the mind does help in that regard, but the mood also helps a great deal to sort of help just get things together and get going. So the proprietary redox blend here are two things: Gaba and L-Tyrosine. And Gaba is gamma aminobutyric acid. It's been around for years. It's well known. It's an amino acid that acts as a neurotransmitter. So it actually has direct effects on activity in the brain. And it's primarily an inhibitory neurotransmitter. And that doesn't mean it puts you to sleep. What it does is calms down that sort of overload. If you've got all kinds of neurons firing and you feel like you're headed in 6 different generations, it affects that fight or flight mechanism and just helps you to get organized. At least that's the way I look at it. What's your take on GABA?
Well, its primary effect, it's made by the cells in the brain and the spinal cord, and it's throughout the body. And its primary effect is to reduce excitability, the untoward firing, the excited activity within the central nervous system. And so, and that's why, disorders that involve the production of GABA naturally, are associated with many mental health issues and anxiety and so forth. That when I can have this inhibitory, and it's not that it's driving you down as in a sedate thing. It's the balancing. It's like, because if I just get wound up for whatever reason, physiologically or mental health wise or whatever, the question is, well, how can I naturally reduce that? And the answer is by having more GABA activity. And obviously there's drugs out there that are used in the mental health world that affect that as well. But that's why this can play a helpful role in helping to promote restful sleep, because it's helping to quiet you and to move you into stages of mental activity to where you can get some sleep. The calm, the anxiety, the stress, relaxation, and so forth. But it has also powerful effects on healing nerves, as in when there's been spinal cord injury or nerve tissue injury. This is also powerfully involved in that, because it suppresses neurodegeneration, improves memory, increases cognitive function. That's all a part of the mood aspect, of how the brain's functioning, how the spinal cord is working.
Yeah, very interesting. And I would encourage those of you who really want to, again, you don't need to know all of this stuff. We just find it intriguing and I think hopefully gives all of you a more appreciative understanding of that these products are not just lightweight afterthoughts that ASEA has come out for marketing reasons. These are very powerful, and the only reason why these ingredients take on the importance of being a proprietary redox blend for this product is that they do have powerful influences on our nervous system. So let's switch to L-Tyrosine, which is the other proprietary blend in here. And I'll let you chat about that a little bit, and then I'll add my 2 cents worth. But you've got you've got an important section in your chapter on L-Tyrosine, which really, I think, really lays out the benefits of this supplement and why it's in redox mood. So you want to just chat about that a little bit?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. The L-tyrosine is something that promotes the production of neurotransmitters. It helps with thyroid hormone production. It's helpful in that regard, and the balancing of the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous systems with regards to what we call the catecholamines, the epinephrines, the excitability molecules and so forth. And so because of that, it does have an ability and a function within cognitive function with dealing with acute stress, acute physical stress, and its effect on mood, sleep, and so forth. But it's that neurotransmission. If my nerve cells aren't communicating to each other through those synapses, from nerve signal propagation and so forth, then I'm going to have problems with understanding, the symptoms of stress, mood swings, and so on and so forth. So L-tyrosine then becomes an important aspect of this. It's also a phenol, and meaning it has a phenolic structure to it. Therefore, it itself is an antioxidant. And so again, we come at this from a myriad of directions to where this isn't just a single, rifle bullet. We're coming at this with a kind of a shotgun approach which more accurately simulates, what we should be getting in nature anyway, with a variety of foods, because that's where all these come from, obviously, is that. So it's helping to neutralize, oxidative molecules. It helps to balance, the effect of free radicals in that regard, and to protect our lipids, which is the cell membranes that are made of, by preventing the peroxidation of those lipids in the cell membrane. So there's just a multifaceted benefit that comes from this, and you combine it with GABA, and you combine it with the other ingredients, the vitamins, the saffron, and so forth, and no wonder this is helpful.
Yeah, and I would say that maybe this is more of a as needed kind of a product, but I think for a lot of people, it probably, as they start to use it, they're going to find it it's something that they use on a regular basis. What do you think about that?
Well, we should probably, this would be a good place to make a disclaimer, and say that we're not talking about this, and none of these products are meant to treat, diagnose, or cure. And so, if someone does have a mood disorder, if there's something that has been diagnosed, or they're leaning or inclined that way, this shouldn't be thought of as treatment. If those issues that are going on, this should be, in my view, properly addressed by your physician, because there can be some other heavyweight issues going on that need to be addressed, either through, in this regard, through mental health counseling, or through therapy of some form. But as an adjunct, as something where you're just saying, well, do I need to take this just when I feel stressed, or because I might be I don't know how to express this kindly, I'm just kind of more agitated all the time, or I find myself easily slipping in that direction? Well, then that would be your personal decision to use this on a more regular basis, to have all of these supportive elements. I would think that if you took this in that fashion and you noticed improvements, that's saying something. There's some people say, well, I take this and I don't notice anything. Well, good for you.
Right.
You've got great genetics and your diet's good or whatever, but when people take an energy drink because they're trying to ramp up their energy for 5 hours or whatever, and they notice an effect, and then they switch to Redox Energy, for example, it's like, what is that telling you? There's something going on that might be amiss. And from a nutritional point of view, as an adjunctive, even as needed, if not regular thing, if that's your point of focus, well, then it's certainly not harmful, and it plays in the redox landscape very nicely.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. I should have probably mentioned in the beginning that none of these products are designed to cure, heal, or treat any specific medical issues, and they're for ordinary people who want to get the benefits of the ingredients in these products. They're not a drug, and they're not a treatment, but they can be an adjunct for that sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, the ingredients. I think hopefully what you're getting from this talk this morning is that these are significant products. These are significant ingredients, and they only made it into these proprietary blends because they passed muster with the criteria of gene regulation, protection, adaptation, and the other important thing I think to make is that ASEA made sure that the amount of each of these products in these blends actually works. There are products out there that have ingredients in them mostly just to make the label look good, but there's not enough to actually have a physiologic effect. And so the amount of each of these ingredients, the proprietary blend and all of the other ingredients that are put into those little packets are actually efficacious dosing. They actually have a physiologic effect. And that's been proven in the clinical trials and from the literature, and certainly from the branded ingredient. We know from their experience how much has to be in each little packet to actually have a benefit. And that maybe speaks a little bit to the recommendation that you take this, when you mix one of these up, that you take it within 15 minutes. Because my understanding of that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Lee, that's so that you get enough of this into your system in a short period of time that you actually notice the effects. It's not that it goes bad if it's mixed up, half an hour ago or 2 hours ago. It still works, but you may not notice it when you spread out that dosage over a longer period of time. So it's not necessarily essential that you take it within 15 minutes, but I think you're going to notice the benefits more profoundly if you do take it over that shorter period of time. Is that your take on the 15 minutes, Lee?
That would be a logical take on it. The other important aspect of that is that because these aren't signaling molecules, they're not going to denature. They don't diminish. They don't become destroyed in and of themselves or decay, away. And so they can be blended. You can combine them with other ingredients. This is simply nutrition. I'm top loading nutrition and putting some bioactive molecules in my body that come from plants, basically, that have this effect on the redox landscape. So yeah, I would tend to agree with that.
Yeah, because Nancy a lot of times will mix it up in her water bottle and just sort of sip on it over a little longer period of time. So I'm going to wrap this up here pretty quickly because we're approaching the top of the hour and I don't want to go any longer than that. But you notice that we haven't talked about redox energy, and that was kind of on purpose. I really wanted to, Lee too, wanted to really discuss the mind and the mood, because I think most everybody kind of understands what the energy is all about. We may get together for a half an hour and discuss the energy and the ingredients in energy. But it's pretty self-explanatory, but there are some really good ingredients in our redox energy that you're not going to find in a lot of the other over-the-counter energy products that you see at the checkout at the grocery store or in the gas station when you're running in to pay for your gas. This is a healthy and health promoting product as well. And if you want to get a head start on that, let me just say that the branded ingredient in energy is N-Extra, E-N-X-T-R-A. And you can Google that and get some pretty good understanding of that ingredient, which is a primary ingredient here, and that is Alpinia galanga. Big words. You probably never heard of it if you aren't into herbal supplementation, but An extra, which is a branded Alpinia Galanga product. It's the branded proprietary ingredient in energy. And if you just Google that and read that, you're going to get a pretty good understanding of kind of one of the main ingredients in energy. And Lee and I will get back together sometime and dissect and explain the redox energy some other time. But really, the mind and the mood and the energy, they're excellent products. Again, not meant to cure, heal, or treat, but certainly meant to improve the quality of our life. And I think with the underpinnings of our redox signaling molecule product and what it can do for you, and then add in these more focused ingredients, plant-based, natural, clean products, I think you're going to be able to improve the quality of your life and those around you. So any other closing remarks that you'd like to make, Lee, and then we'll wrap this up?
Yeah, it's been a pleasure to do this. I'll just make one comment on the energy thing, because it does tie in so intimately with what we just talked about. One of the core ingredients of the energy mind is the L-theanine. And interestingly, in the literature, in the research, L-theanine increases Gaba. And so you see this synergistic play even between the products that we've been talking about, because of its effect in sustaining the health of brain cells and its antioxidant capacity, and its ability to improve cognition and mood, and it can sustain the Krebs cycle intermediates and decrease the presence of folded proteins, which we talked about earlier. The damage to these proteins, and so you get this synergism that plays between these ingredients, even between the three that we've talked about, the three products. And it's kind of an interesting correlation, and they again play on that redox landscape in very interesting ways, not as signaling molecules, but they are activating. They're activating the redox landscape because they are redox active.
Yeah,
powered by redox.
Powered by redox. Yeah, I just a couple of questions that I've seen come across here. Maybe we can close with that. You can mix these products together. My favorite mixture is mind and energy. I don't know that I'd mix energy and mood. I haven't tried that yet, but they're a little contradictory to each other. But you can mix them. You can mix them with other things. You can put them in a smoothie. You could sprinkle them on a salad. I guess you can consume these in a number of different ways. You can put them in tea, so you can take those hot. I probably wouldn't boil them. But they're much more forgiving than the redox signaling molecules are. So don't be afraid to combine them, to experiment yourself with taking them at different times. They're not gonna hurt you, and they can really do some interesting things for you. So jump in and Google the proprietary blends. Take a look at the branded ingredients. You're going to get a lot of information there. And in fact, on the energy, in the meantime, until we get around to having a conversation about that, just an extra will give you a lot of information about the benefits of Alpinia Galanga, which is the source of some natural caffeine. That's one of the active ingredients in energy. So go for that. And hopefully we've given you some information today that you can take away, giving you a better understanding of why these products work so well. And why we're getting so many positive feedbacks from people that are trying these. And so give them a try if you haven't already, and reach out to us individually if you have questions that we haven't answered today. So thank you very much. Thank you, Lee, for spending an hour here. And with that, I'm going to end this. And the recording for this, again, will be up on redoxmatters.com. And it'll be up there within the next 24 hours or so. So if you want to re-listen to this or send it out to anybody, it's certainly going to be there for you guys to use. So have a great day, everybody.